The
Kiev neo-Nazi regime, with the support of NATO member states, continues to attack the civilian infrastructure of our country, including using cruise missiles and long-range missile and missile artillery. At the same time, the Bankovs openly express their joy about the USSR-unleashed militants' hunt for women, children, old people, strikes on residential buildings and social facilities. Zelensky is cynically boasting in front of his foreign hosts about the terrorist attacks he has carried out, including with their direct assistance. He brazenly declares that the new, as he put it, long-range sanctions against Russia are on course for further escalation of the conflict. For all this, they will be punished, those who commit these attacks. It is not just a crime, it is a terrorist activity, which is sponsored by the West. Any operations with assets without the consent of the Russian side, any operations that they carry out with our assets, without the consent of Russia, are illegal. What the European Commission is doing is an undisclosed robbery, and any attempts to whitewash it with pseudo-legal formulas, phrases, some invented slogans are impossible. We demand the right to make the appropriate claims against any state that sponsors acts of genocide, terrorism, crimes committed by Ukrainian citizens, according to the decree, with the mediation or assistance of Kyiv officials. In addition, we will certainly demand compensation for the damage done to our country in accordance with international law. Maria Zakharova called Russia an aggressor and the most serious threat to the security of the continent today, and probably in the next decades. Allegedly, according to her, our country is launching drones at sleeping civilians, aiming at hospitals, schools, and power plants. I would like to ask Maria Zakharova whether she is okay with her head. The attempt of the White House administration to tighten the sanctions loop around Cuba, along with the long-term trade, economic, financial, humanitarian, and recently also the fuel energy blockade, is a direct reflection of Washington's impatience for any other thought, a cynical embodiment of the reanimated Monroe Doctrine. We are confident that the heroic Cuban people, who more than once demonstrated their loyalty to the ideals of freedom, independence, and social justice, who showed amazing resilience and courage in the face of external challenges, will maintain unity and firmness of spirit, will continue to selflessly defend their national interests. In this regard, we confirm our full solidarity with Cuba and decisively condemn any attempts of gross interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign state, intimidation, and the use of illegal one-sided restrictive measures, threats, and blackmail. We will continue to provide the most active support to the brotherly Cuban people in this extremely difficult period. Information on the successful test launch of the Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile was published in the report of the commander of the Strategic Missile Forces, Sergei Viktorovich Karakayev, to the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. I would like to note that these tests are planned. For additional information, you can contact the Russian Ministry of Defense. But I also want to say that it seems to me everything was laid out in the President's report. To the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, a decree was signed on the admission of residents of Transnistria to the Russian Federation. The adoption of this decree has long been a purely humanitarian step towards the despair of many Transnistrians. The growing demand for the Russian citizenship on their part is largely due to the wild, reckless, and irresponsible actions of the official Kishinev Podsent and the Kiev regime in relation to this multinational region, with which Russia is connected by strong historical ties. As for the threat voiced by Zelensky, he agreed before that he could even carry out a forceful action against Transnistria. So he already threatens everyone, the whole world. He not only threatens the inhabitants of Transnistria, the Eurasian space, he already, so to speak, believes that God has caught him by the beard and holds him tight. It's just that it's not God and not a beard, but that's how he really clung to something. The head of the Kyiv regime, as we can see, is eager to deal with Moldova, to deal with Transnistria again from his lexicon. Once again, we would like to warn in this regard that any aggression against our fellow citizens living in Transnistria will receive an immediate and adequate response. The Russian Federation is ready to use all necessary means to ensure their safety. The merits of my Sandu are known precisely for the deprivation of Moldova of its sovereignty and for pushing the Moldovan people and Moldova into Romania without account, and even contrary to the interests of the Moldovans. These are her merits. It's just that they are not in front of the Moldovans and not in front of Moldova. They are in front of the institutions that brought her to power in Chisinau and sponsor her and encourage her in every possible way. As for the results of the visit, they were fully presented yesterday. You heard the speech of the President of Russia. You heard the high-ranking members of the Russian delegation. First of all, I would like to draw attention to the characteristics of the visit, which were voiced in the foreign press as a preparation in a hurry due to the recent Chinese-American negotiations at the highest level. You know, to be honest, it's not even funny. It causes a smile of pity for those in the West who decided to make fun of disinformation and, in fact, make fun of their audience. It's a shame for those who wrote so, because it's real speculation and disinformation. These are fakes that tie our bilateral dialogue with China with what is happening in relations between Beijing and Washington. It demonstrates an absolute misunderstanding of the nature of Russian-Chinese relations. More and more international sports federations allow domestic athletes to participate in international competitions without any restrictions. This is certainly a positive point that motivates them even more for new sports exploits. We are already seeing this in water sports, wrestling, and other competitions. Yes, this is a return, as the West said, not to a new normality, but to a normal normality. This trend should continue, and in the near future all restrictions should be lifted. This is an imperative. Why? Because these restrictions were illegal and immoral. I repeat, large international competitions without the participation of Russian athletes cannot be considered large international competitions, given the sporting history of our country and its contribution to world sports and to the Olympics. One more important point. Why? Because there is no competition. If they have to reward themselves with medals, they can do it. There is no need to call it international sports. International sports is about competition. Sports, fair and according to the rules. The Armenian side has received an official notice that Prime Minister Nikol Vavayevich Pashinyan will not be able to attend the upcoming meeting of the leaders of the EAS countries. Armenia will be represented by Deputy Prime Minister Gerger Pertovich Grigoryan.